Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm really glad to be here, just coming from another engagement, and I feel that, how do we feel about Andrew? Oh, I feel like we all deserve a pat on the back for that, just generally, because it's interesting to me how the very things that I guess so many of us saw coming all along, we see that this system, this institution, essentially is illegitimate and it's outdated. We've seen that. And I'm sure when we've gone out to say it to friends and family, they've said, oh, don't say that. It's a lovely old lady. Don't say that. It's just the family going through everything else that we all go through. And it's like, no. And if they want to do that, they should do it off their own pennies, right, essentially. And so it's brilliant to see that the monarchy, I wanted to say the monarchy is crumbling, right, but it's not crumbling, it has crumbled. Right? It's actually gone. What we are seeing, I'm not a physics babe, but when we think about stars or we see stars and they say the light that we see from a star, the star's already dead. Right? And so the light that we're seeing of the monarchy, it's gone. It's just the last kind of dregs of whatever is left. And so many people are going to try and hold on to that and tell us that that is still reality. No, the power has actually shifted hands. That world, the world that we know, where the monarchy made some sense, I guess, to people, that world has gone. And a new sort of world is being born. And so I wonder whether that world has actually died within all of us, because it needs to, for the kind of new system that we want to see in place, the republic that we want to see in place. Have we dethroned the monarchy in our own minds? Because intellectually speaking, yes, of course, we know that this doesn't make sense. It's draconian, it's antiquated, we don't need it. However, do we still hold on to certain views? The reason I ask is because, for instance, when I look at the demographic of the people in this room, I'm not really represented, right? And so in the world that we're calling into being, in the system that we're calling into being, will I fit in there? Do I fit into that world? I hope so, because it should be something that we are forming together. So this is why I ask about dethroning the tyrant within all of our psyche, within our subconscious, because that's actually harder. As a concept, of course, we can look at the monarchy and say that that's wrong because it's an external force, it's an external entity. But where are we looking within ourselves to do the same work of decolonization, to do the same work of dethroning? Because it's horrible work, it's messy work, and it's not a one-time kind of job. We keep coming back over and over and over again to think about all of the ways in which maybe we still need to practice intersectionality. We can't do what has been done before. Part of the reason I feel that the monarchy had to go, the British monarchy had to go, it's because it is a racist entity. When we talk about, Great Britain, what made it great essentially was the amount of blood that was shed from people all over the world, and even in terms of Wales, Scotland, Ireland. Blood had to be shed in order for us to know a United Kingdom and to know a Great Britain. When are we thinking about redistributing power? Because it's one thing to say that, we want the monarchy gone, because I'm saying to you that it has gone. So now what? So I know that we've got a bit after this where you feel free to ask me questions, but I'm asking us the question, now what? We don't have to worry about whether the monarchy's going. I'm an astrology babe, it's gone by 2024. By 2024, I promise you, hand on heart, it's gone, because more and more of us are waking up to the insanity of what it is to have such a ridiculous entity scrounging off of us for centuries, all because of some weird concept of the divine right of kings. that somebody can be born into a position to rule over us. As far as I'm concerned, the moment we are born, anything goes, you know, and that's the way it should be, that we can strive to achieve whatever we want to achieve in our life, and it's down to us. And there aren't systems in place that say to us that you can't go that far because you have a vagina, or you can't go that far because you love people of the same sex as yourself. Like that has to, all of that, we have to be able to do away with. And the only way we can do away with that is by dethroning the tyrant that does live in us all. I would actually be worried if somebody said to me, oh no, I'm great, I don't see colour. I would be worried if somebody thought that the tyrant within them is fully gone. Because actually, I think that the work that we are doing while we're on this earth is to overpower the tyrant that we have all been indoctrinated with. That's why I don't really focus, as Bell Hooks said, about talking about racism. Racism, yeah, fine. White supremacy, though, we've all been infected with that, all of us. And Bell Hooks, there's a quote of hers where she says that she no longer, when she was alive, that she no longer spoke about racism. Instead, she speaks of white supremacy because that is present even when white-skinned people are not in the room. And the only reason an entity such as, a machine such as the monarchy was able to thrive for so long, it goes beyond having white subjects, as we know ourselves, citizens, right? But it goes beyond having white subjects. You also need the people who are colonized to buy into the fallacy, to buy into the illusion. So at the same time as we're having this conversation, I'm also having the conversation with people who look like me to ask them to let go as well. My mum is so proud that she knows the national anthem. She will start, Kelechi, do you know the national anthem? I don't give a damn, actually. But she, you know, when Elizabeth was alive, she'd be like, God save the Queen. Have you asked God about yourself? You know, ask God about you. Focus on you for a second. And I think one of the proudest things I've been able to do is essentially get my mum on board with the Republic. So I'm like, Mum, what do you feel? How would you feel if I was president? But, you know, it's just those kind of jokes that I make with her because she needs to be able to imagine a different type of world. And now my mum will see something. In fact, she was one of the first people to send me what had happened with Andrew about, you know, the process of stripping him of his titles. Before, she never would have sent anything like that. Because as somebody who was born and raised in Nigeria, she was born just after Nigeria gained independence. There's so much that I see of her that I grieve for, because colonialism isn't just about the land being colonized. That means nothing, really. It's the minds, all of the minds that were colonized as well. And you don't get that back once you reach a certain generation and what their hopes and aspirations have been tied to. I feel like sometimes you can't get them back. The systems in place in Nigeria right now are a result of colonialism. And I get so frustrated sometimes when I meet fellow activists, right, who talk about the anti-LGBTQ laws across West Africa, and they talk about it with such disdain. And I have to ask them, who do you think brought those laws in the first place? Right, so to blame people for still being sick for the sickness you gave them is crazy work. Because prior to colonization, when we look at historic texts and when we go through the oral traditions and the stories that were passed down, even our deities, also specifically in Yoruba land, known as Orisha, we didn't really talk about them in gender. Do you know actually that in the Yoruba language, we don't have he or she? So gender didn't work in the same way for us. Even in our language, you can tell so much about a people through the language that they use. We didn't have that. So that means that there was something else that we were more focused on that was more akin to do with the person, some might say the soul. And through colonialism, that was taken away. We were given other things that kind of refracted our trajectory as people. And then actually, then we're looking at the amalgamation of different ethnic groups that people like to now call tribes, which is another word that I think we should be doing away with because there's violence in language. These were ethnic groups that operated in their own way, had their own system, and due to colonialism, they were forced together. So Nigeria isn't so much of a country. It became a country for me because that's where I was born, but it isn't so much of a country, it's a business venture. And you're asking all of these people who are made to be a company, essentially, of workers to get along, and they don't actually know each other like that. And that served the colonizers, or it served the British government for there to be this animosity because, they say, divide and rule. It just made sense. It's easier if everyone's arguing, the Hausas arguing with the Fulani arguing with the Yoruba arguing with the Igbo, and then they tell you that there's a humanitarian crisis in terms of the Biafra war, because the Igbo people actually just said, you know what, we want to return to being our own self-actualized ethnic group of people. So the atrocities that end up being a result of the frustrations of people being forcefully amalgamated is then what's presented as a humanitarian crisis. And then people look on and go, oh, those poor Africans, look at them fighting. Look at them fighting with flies on their head. So even how we think about how we understand history and how we understand the conflicts that take place, we have to go and retell that story as well. So essentially, the only way that we are going to be able to, or one of the main ways that we're going to be able to dethrone the tyrant within all of our psyches, is to start telling a new story, to go and learn a true story, a real story from the people who are actually the embodiment of that story. And that requires for more people like me to be in spaces such as these. So when we are out and about and we're talking to people about what does the world look like beyond the monarchy, are we talking to people that don't look like us, aren't the same age as we are, same gender as we are? We need to be out there talking to more people, because actually that is how we do the work of dethroning, moving beyond our discomfort and looking at how we can bring each other in, because we can't do this as just, I mean, I know that, this is a widespread movement all across the country, but we can't do this alone. We need everyone to be on board, and we need to make it clear to everyone how it actually benefits them as well to do away with the tyrant. Because we can't have done all of this work, been pushing all of this time to just go and have another system that is like the previous system, just in a Gucci jacket. Okay? So that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you. It's the way that we've been indoctrinated, all of us, right? It can't be something that we can touch, because it's easy to do away with a thing that we can touch. It has to be intangible. It has to be just out of our reach. It has to be, I see a black boy wearing a tracksuit and I think, ooh, it's not like I cross the road. It's not like I do anything, because it's those little moments, if you understand what I mean. It's like I see a group of black boys wearing hoodies and I think, do I cross? What do I do there? That's the tyrant. Because why? Because if I saw 5 white kids wearing baggy jeans and, maybe with an emo sort of hairstyle, would I feel the same way about them being in that group? That's the tyrant that's already preconditioned me, that when I see people, I've already categorized them based on what I understand. And I'm saying, who is the good here? Who is good? Who is evil? Am I in danger? And, those are the conversations that we need to have, because that isn't based on, because sometimes I see conversations happen, especially within the black communities, and there is a way, and I've pushed back against it, that we talk in sort of a way that we martyr ourselves as if we are incapable of also holding prejudice, right? We all hold prejudice. There's none of us who would have experienced the school system, for instance, specifically in this country, who isn't prejudiced, who doesn't have that seed of white supremacy within them. That's literally what the system essentially was meant to do, to make us all great workers. We weren't necessarily meant to be leaders. It wouldn't serve the elite. It wouldn't serve the upper class for us to be self-actualized within the system. So we are all made to be workers. And in fact, I say often that I don't think that white supremacy is imaginative. It only uses the same kind of system everywhere. The plantation looks like the school system, looks like the prison system, looks like an office. You'll have the masters, then you'll have the people who work in the master's house, right? And then you'll have the overseers who don't get to necessarily go in the house, but they're supervising everybody else. And then you have all of the workers. That doesn't change. And the uniformity, one of the first things, if you're really trying to get people to conform, is, okay, we're going to give them a number and we're going to give them uniforms. There is a need for us to be one. Difference isn't allowed. Even when we think about the tenets of British values in this country, one of the tenets is tolerance. What the hell does that mean? Because if I'm tolerating something, I would prefer if the thing wasn't there, but I'm going to tolerate it anyway. How is that a value that one can be proud of? Because when we break down the language, because again, language holds so much power and language is violent at times. That word tolerance already tells you the stance that we're meant to hold as the general British public. And it's not a good one. So in order for us, like I say, when we're talking about dethroning the tyrant, it also comes down to the language, how we interact with language in the everyday. They say the average reading age in this country is 9 years old. So it makes sense that a lot of the hateful rhetoric that is perpetuated and propagated throughout the media only has about 4 words. Can't go beyond 4 because they're going to lose it, right? It's the same with America. Make America great again. Like, you don't do too much. So complex thinking isn't encouraged because we are still thinking about ourselves, or we are being made to think of ourselves still in that manner of, going back to the feudal system where we are merely peasants, we're merely subjects, we're not smart. And so we don't need to know too much in order that we can be ruled efficiently. And in what ways are we oversimplifying the very nuanced kind of discourse that's taking place all around us that we should also be engaging with? So when I think about, okay, I see groups of, because I'm going to use specific examples, when I see groups of young boys standing together and I feel that moment of, oh, can I walk it that way? That's very real. It's not imagined. It's a very real thing. But where am I learning that from? So instead, in order to work with the tyrant or to work with dethroning the tyrant in my psyche, I started breaking down, how do we get to the point of youth violence, using that as a specific example? How do we deal with something like youth violence? I wouldn't say it's by having more police on the streets, because the police aren't actually there to serve us, and I think we know that by now, right? It's not to get more police on the streets. What a lot of the youth want is to have a level of self-esteem, to feel good within themselves. So when the summer holidays were ending, I took some money that I'd put aside and I took it to a local hair salon that has a barber and as well as the hairdressers. And I paid for 22 kids to be able to get their hair done. I just put the money there and I said, they're going to contact you. I'm going to put it out on social media. 22 people, first come, first served. Let them have their hair done on me. We have to have mutual aid. We have to have a system in place ready, because in my mind, that old world is gone. But if it's gone, what do we have in its place? How are we looking out for each other? And so it's easy to go, oh, well, the youth of today, but what are we doing to help the youth of today so they don't become the youth of today with the capital Y-O-T that we're talking about? Because when we're saying that, we're saying it in a derogatory way. So we have to think about how we are, at a grassroots level, which is what a lot of this is. How are we doing the work so we don't have to keep dealing with the tyrant and perpetuating narratives that will not serve us and will only cause more division down the line? So I hope that makes it clear. Yeah, and I think that from my understanding of it so far, I get to participate and I love the work that Republic are doing. I'm with the platform that I have. and the kind of conversations that I have, for instance, in my sphere, introducing some of these notions to people, I can see shifts. And I actually think that that's really what it is, getting more people who have influence at different levels to be conversant at what we're saying here, what the discourse actually is, and what are we trying to achieve, and getting them to come in more. So in terms of recruitment, I don't know for sure, but I do know that it is about bringing more people in from different areas of life and having them speak with their communities too. And I can already see the difference in terms of my community. The moment they saw the news, for instance, about Andrew, they were tagging me straight away. They were like, we did it, Joe. You know, they were excited to see that, because for various reasons as well, I would say, this is why I mentioned about intersectionality and stuff, that maybe just seeing a top line about not my king or whatever might not grab somebody in my demographic, because they've got other things that they're thinking about and trying to survive. But there has to be things that speak to them directly, that's kind of focused on their immediate experience, that they then go, okay, I feel like I can be part of this too. So yeah, in recruitment, I think it's a very nuanced, and it has to be a real strategic thing. But I know that this will grow because I like this and I'm here. So there'll be more people. Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give it another round of applause for Kelechi. Thank you so much.